David Ploger, who was Derek Chauvin's supervisor in the 3rd precinct, he testified yesterday, and the prosecution of Derek Chauvin asked him some key questions, and he provided some key answers. First, he said that Derek Chauvin did not mention using force or putting a knee on George Floyd's neck in their conversation following George Floyd's death, which seems key and paints the picture for the prosecution, thankfully, that Chauvin was trying to obfuscate or hide his role in the death of George Floyd. And then David Ploger said this, which is very key.
Based on your review of the body-worn camera footage, do you have an opinion as to when the restraint of Mr. Floyd should have ended in this encounter?
Yes.
What is it?
When Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers, they could have ended the restraint.
And that was after he was handcuffed and on the ground and no longer resisting?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Why this is important is because part of what the defense is claiming is that this was just a part of Derek Chauvin's job. Now, this is his supervisor saying that he did not handle the situation appropriately. All of this is key to just dispelling what the defense is trying to build up, even though we are all human beings with 2 eyes that could see that for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck, and that doesn't seem to be appropriate policing tactics. But just for the record, and just to continue to dismantle what the defense is trying to put up, that is key testimony. And as we've seen throughout the trial, the visceral, emotional testimony of the people that witnessed George Floyd's murder, who have guilt that they have to carry for absolutely no reason because of the actions of Derek Chauvin, because of all that comes up with it, the baggage of institutionalized racism that comes out in police violence and in many other ways, in legislation and all these structural issues. There's so much there. But for the narrow purposes of finding Derek Chauvin guilty, which he is guilty. I mean, I'll editorialize. I'm a talk show host. I can say that. This is key testimony because now all the defense has in their quiver, to borrow Sam's phrase, is the George Floyd was a drug addict defense, which is basically on its face a way to say, oh, well, that's what caused his death, not the kneeling on his neck, even after his pulse stopped for 9.5 minutes. On its face, they're trying to say that it was his health issues that caused his death. But in reality, what they're trying to do is a lot more insidious, which is trying to paint the picture of a delinquent drug addict who kind of deserved it, didn't he? And those are some of the subtle ways that they're trying to influence the jury. And that's really what makes, I think, a lot of what the defense has been doing so gross. We saw this yesterday when they tried to paint the witness, who was an MMA fighter, as an angry black man. They may not understand that that's what they're doing, but I don't even want to give them that grace or that.
Oh, yeah, they understand.
They understand. You know, it's just for the sake of an argument, you can say, oh, well, like maybe they're just doing what the law intends. But really what the reality is that they are knowingly stoking specific trigger points and stereotypes about George Floyd's drug addiction history and about the witnesses and their reaction to it. And all of this is incredibly gross.
Yeah, I think one simple, well, not a simple fix, but one thing that, like, of course, everybody deserves a right to trial, right? Not everybody deserves $1 million lawyers that can help, run some of these tried and tested plays on jury. And I think that, like, cops should just get public defendants. I don't think they should have anything beyond that. If it's good enough for the people that they're trying to lock up, it should be good enough for the cops.
Yep. Well, I couldn't agree more. And, you have to wonder how, the mental gymnastics with which some of these lawyers go through, these high-powered lawyers, in order to take this kind of case. They have to think they're doing something moral or justified in some way, but it blows my mind the cognitive dissonance of people who want to make money and then work backwards from that conclusion and then morally justify it. That seems to be, for some high-powered lawyers, a daily occurrence, those kinds of mental gymnastics.